Twin sisters from Chicago fly to Dubai to meet a mysterious sheikh promising them fame and fortune, but only one comes back, and what police uncover about the other shatters everything they thought they knew. Emily and Ella Carter had always shared everything, from childhood secrets to adult ambitions. Growing up in a modest Chicago neighborhood, they built their lives on the dream of escaping ordinary routines. Together, they launched a small online fashion boutique that began to gain attention on social media. Their twin beauty and synchronized charm drew thousands of followers, making them minor celebrities in their community. When an email appeared in their inbox from a man claiming to be Sheikh Amir al-Rashid, a wealthy investor from Dubai, it seemed like destiny. The message was polished and professional, promising a multi-million-dollar investment in their brand and a global launch under his patronage. Attached were documents, photos of luxurious events, and even references from supposed industry figures. Ella's excitement was immediate. She saw it as the big break they had been waiting for. Emily, however, was cautious. Something about the offer felt too perfect, too sudden. But after a few video calls with the Sheikh's representative, a man named Kareem who spoke confidently about expanding their fashion line, her doubts began to fade. Plane tickets and luxury accommodations were arranged for them at no cost. The promise of opportunity drowned out hesitation. Their parents urged them to be careful, but the twins reassured everyone that it was legitimate. They packed matching suitcases, bought new outfits, and filmed their journey for their followers. "This is our moment," Ella had written in her final post before departure. As their flight soared across the Atlantic, Emily stared out the window, torn between excitement and unease. For the first time, their shared path seemed to stretch into something unknown, an adventure filled with glittering possibility and unseen danger waiting just beyond the horizon. The air in Dubai shimmered with heat as Emily and Ella stepped off the plane, dazzled by the skyline of glass towers rising from the desert. Two men in perfectly tailored suits waited at the arrival's gate, holding a sign that read Carter Sisters. Their manners were polite but rehearsed, and without a word of small talk, they escorted the twins to a sleek black SUV parked away from the crowds. The drive was long and silent, passing through stretches of golden sand and isolated compounds until the city disappeared entirely. When the car finally stopped, a vast white villa stood before them, elegant but strangely remote, surrounded by high walls and silence. Inside, the air smelled faintly of jasmine and new paint. The marble floors gleamed, and ornate chandeliers sparkled overhead. A woman in a black abaya greeted them and took their phones, explaining that guests were not allowed to use personal devices inside the Sheikh's residence for security reasons. Emily hesitated but complied, uneasy under the watchful eyes of the guards stationed at every corner. The sisters were shown to an enormous guest suite filled with luxury, silk sheets, fresh fruit, and gifts labeled with their names. They were told to rest and that the Sheikh would meet them in the morning. Ella lounged on the balcony, marveling at the view, but Emily couldn't shake the unease creeping over her. There were no neighboring houses, no nearby roads, and no way to contact anyone outside. As night fell, faint whispers echoed from the hallway. The lights flickered once, briefly, and footsteps passed their door. Emily's heart pounded as she stared into the darkness, sensing that something in this glittering paradise was terribly, dangerously wrong. When Emily woke the next morning, the other side of the bed was perfectly made. Ella's suitcase was gone, her shoes missing from beside the door. At first, Emily assumed her sister had gone for breakfast, but the hours dragged on in silence. She asked the housekeeper where Ella was, but the woman only smiled politely and said she was with the Sheikh. Unease turned to fear as the day grew hotter. Emily paced the marble floors, noticing details she had overlooked before: security cameras that didn't blink, doors that locked automatically, and guards who never spoke. Her attempts to contact anyone failed. Her phone was still missing. By afternoon, panic overwhelmed her. She demanded to see the Sheikh, but the staff ignored her questions. The woman in the abaya reappeared and told her to rest, insisting everything was fine. Emily's instincts screamed otherwise. Late that evening, as the sun dipped into the desert horizon, she heard distant shouting from somewhere below the villa, a muffled cry that vanished as quickly as it came. She rushed to the window and saw nothing but endless sand. Determined to escape, Emily searched for another way out. A small window in the bathroom opened to the courtyard, just large enough to squeeze through. She climbed out, scraping her arm on the stone ledge, and ran barefoot toward the darkness. The desert wind stung her skin as she followed the distant glow of highway lights. Hours later, dehydrated and trembling, she stumbled into a gas station and begged for help. The attendant called the police, and soon the U.S. Embassy was notified. Emily was taken into protective custody, her voice shaking as she told them the truth. Her sister had vanished, and the villa was not what it seemed. Dubai authorities responded quickly after receiving the embassy's urgent request. Within hours, local police and federal investigators arrived at the villa Emily had described. Yet when they entered the property, they found an eerie stillness. The grand hallways were empty, the chandeliers covered in dust sheets, and the staff had disappeared. Documents that might have identified the owner were gone. The only trace of life was a faint metallic scent lingering in the air. Forensic teams swept the rooms, and what they uncovered deepened the mystery. In one of the guest suites, officers discovered dark stains on the carpet that later tested positive for blood. Near the pool, tucked beneath a lounger, lay a single gold bracelet engraved with the letter E, Ella's. Investigators traced the lease records of the villa and found it had been rented under a false name just 2 weeks prior. The payment was made through multiple offshore accounts that vanished as soon as the search began. Surveillance cameras around the perimeter were either disabled or had their footage erased. Without witnesses or digital evidence, the investigation stalled almost immediately. Emily was flown back to Chicago under embassy protection, her mind replaying every sound and shadow from that night. The media seized on the story. Chicago twins vanish in Dubai under mysterious circumstances. Speculation flooded social platforms. Some accused the Sheikh of fraud. Others claimed the sisters had faked the entire trip. But forensic proof of violence silenced the skeptics. As international attention grew, whispers spread of an underground network exploiting foreign women through fake business offers. What was once a dream partnership now looked like a calculated trap. Emily's return brought headlines, but her sister's fate remained buried in the desert's unforgiving silence. Back in Chicago, Emily tried to rebuild her life, but the city that once felt familiar now carried the weight of her sister's absence. She avoided interviews, ignored social media, and barely left her apartment. Every night, she woke from nightmares of running through the desert, hearing Ella's voice calling her name. Weeks passed with no progress from investigators. Then, one evening, an anonymous email appeared in her inbox. Attached was a single photograph. Ella, sitting on what looked like a luxury yacht, her eyes glassy and distant, her expression blank. The message below read, *, she belongs to the sea now. *. Emily's hands shook as she forwarded the message to the FBI, who immediately opened a new line of investigation. Cyber experts traced the email through multiple encrypted servers spread across Europe and the Middle East. Each trail led to fake companies advertising fashion deals and sponsorship programs targeting young women online. The pattern matched similar cases where victims vanished after being promised international modeling contracts. FBI agents met with Emily regularly, asking her to recall every detail of the trip. She provided names, faces, and fragments of memory that haunted her. The guards, the woman in the abaya, and the unsettling silence that filled the villa. Investigators confirmed that Sheikh Amir al-Rashid was not listed among Dubai's royal families, suggesting the man had fabricated his identity entirely. As weeks turned to months, no new photos appeared, but strange activity began on Ella's old social media accounts. Posts surfaced showing her in glamorous settings, luxury cars, private beaches, designer clothing. Yet experts quickly determined the images were digitally altered. Someone was using Ella's likeness to maintain an illusion. The message was clear. Her disappearance was part of something much larger and much darker. Months after Ella's disappearance, the investigation reached a breakthrough when a Dubai journalist contacted U.S. authorities, claiming he had uncovered evidence linked to the case. He shared photographs of the same villa, now occupied by new owners, and provided a list of foreign women reported missing after visiting similar properties. Each case followed the same pattern: a promising job offer, lavish accommodations, and complete disappearance. He warned investigators that a powerful network was operating behind these scams, one that used high-profile personas and fake royal identities to lure victims. Days after submitting his report, the journalist vanished without a trace. Forensic experts later analyzed Emily's confiscated phone, which had been returned by Dubai police after extensive examination. Hidden within the device's metadata was an encrypted file containing GPS coordinates she had unknowingly captured while filming short travel videos. The coordinates pointed to a private airstrip located 2 hours outside Dubai city limits. Investigators obtained security footage from that airstrip. It showed two identical women, Emily and Ella, boarding a small private jet on the morning of Ella's disappearance. But when the jet landed at its next destination, only one woman disembarked. The timestamps matched the exact day Emily reported her sister missing. The horrifying realization struck investigators. Someone had used Emily's name and documents to transport Ella under a false identity. Interpol was alerted, launching a multinational investigation spanning several countries. The evidence suggested that the criminal network behind Ella's disappearance specialized in identity theft, trafficking, and financial exploitation. Emily, already tormented by guilt, learned that her sister's identity was now being used to recruit more victims online. Each clue uncovered deepened the mystery, pulling investigators closer to an operation that thrived on deception, luxury, and the suffering of the vanished. Investigators soon uncovered a shocking truth buried in encrypted financial records. Ella had secretly communicated with the so-called Sheikh weeks before their trip, negotiating what she believed was a private business deal. The emails revealed that she had been promised exclusive opportunities, personal wealth, and global exposure for their fashion brand. In exchange, she was to attend high-profile, private gatherings with elite clients. Ella had confided in no one, not even Emily, fearing her sister's disapproval. What she didn't know was that the man behind the offer wasn't a sheikh at all. His real name was Khaled Darman, a skilled con artist wanted by authorities in several countries for human trafficking, identity theft, and fraud. Darman's criminal method was meticulous. He posed as influential investors, offering dreams of luxury and success to ambitious young women. Once trust was earned, he isolated his victims, confiscated their passports, and forced them into a web of exploitation. His empire thrived on illusion, glamorous photo shoots, fake contracts, and counterfeit branding partnerships. Each victim's online image was weaponized to attract the next. Authorities traced multiple offshore accounts linked to Darman's network. Each account was connected to shell companies that sponsored fashion influencers, entrepreneurs, and social media models. The deeper investigators dug, the clearer it became that Ella's disappearance was not random. It was part of a calculated system. Emily learned of her sister's secret deal through the FBI's findings and was devastated. She realized that Ella had believed she was in control, unaware she was walking into a trap designed to consume her. For investigators, one truth became clear. Ella was still alive when she vanished, but she had fallen under the control of a man whose entire existence was built on deceit and disappearance. Interpol agents tracked Khaled Darman to a private island off the coast of Oman, a secluded paradise owned through a chain of offshore shell companies. When authorities raided the property, they found several women living in confinement under the guise of luxury guests. Their passports had been confiscated, and their communications were monitored. The women revealed they had been lured through similar fake sponsorship offers, promised wealth and opportunity only to become prisoners. Yet despite the scale of the operation, Ella was not among them. Her name appeared nowhere in the island's records, deepening the mystery surrounding her fate. In the basement of the main villa, investigators found a locked storage room. Inside were racks of designer clothing, high-end makeup, and photo equipment. On one table lay an open album filled with photographs of Ella, posing on yachts, standing beside luxury cars, smiling in elegant gowns. The images appeared staged and overly polished, suggesting they were part of a false narrative meant to convince outsiders that she was thriving. The metadata embedded in the photos showed they were taken months after she was reported missing. DNA testing later confirmed that several items in the room, a hairbrush, a silk scarf, and a necklace engraved with Ella's initials, all belonged to her. It was evidence she had been held there recently, likely forced to maintain the illusion of a glamorous life. Investigators discovered encrypted files on a computer linking the images to online advertisements used to recruit new victims. Each false post carried Ella's likeness as proof of success stories. Though Darman escaped before the raid, the clues he left behind painted a horrifying picture. Ella had been turned into a symbol of luxury to disguise a nightmare built on human exploitation. Months passed before authorities finally located another property tied to Khaled Darman, a secluded desert compound hidden beyond the borders of the United Arab Emirates. Acting on intelligence gathered from the Oman raid, international agents launched a nighttime operation. Inside, they uncovered stacks of falsified documents, multiple passports under different names, and digital records connecting Darman to disappearances across 5 countries. Among the evidence seized was a chilling discovery: a series of video recordings labeled with women's initials. One folder contained a file marked EC. When investigators played the video, the room fell silent. The footage showed Ella inside a dimly lit room, attempting to break free from her restraints. Her voice was faint, pleading for help. The camera shook violently as a commotion erupted off-screen. The sound of struggle, then a heavy thud. The recording ended abruptly, offering no clue to what happened next. Forensics confirmed the background matched the architecture of the desert compound. A large-scale search began across the surrounding dunes. After several days, investigators uncovered a shallow grave half-buried by windblown sand. Personal items, a gold bracelet, fragments of fabric from a designer dress, and jewelry engraved with Ella's initials were found nearby. DNA testing confirmed the remains belonged to Ella Carter. The discovery sent shockwaves through both U.S. and Middle Eastern media, transforming the case from a disappearance into an international homicide. Emily received the news in silence. The sister who once dreamed beside her was gone, taken by greed and cruelty. Khaled Darman, however, had already vanished. Interpol issued a red notice, but he left no digital trace. As investigators closed the site, one truth echoed through the case files: Ella's death had exposed only one piece of a global network still operating in the shadows. Ella Carter's tragic story spread across the world, igniting outrage and fear. Media outlets released documentaries, podcasts, and exposés detailing how a dream trip turned into a global scandal. Governments issued new travel advisories warning against online investment offers and unverified sponsorships. The FBI and Interpol continued their hunt for Khaled Darman, now one of the most wanted fugitives in international criminal history. Rumors surfaced that he had altered his appearance and was living under a new identity in Eastern Europe. Despite multiple leads, every trail ended cold. The empire he built through deceit and human exploitation had fractured, but it had not disappeared. Emily channeled her grief into purpose. She launched a nonprofit foundation in Ella's name, dedicated to educating young entrepreneurs and influencers about online scams, trafficking networks, and digital safety. Through seminars and awareness campaigns, she turned her pain into a mission, warning others about the dangers her sister never saw coming. Her advocacy reached schools, universities, and online platforms, inspiring thousands to take caution before trusting unknown opportunities. Still, at night, Emily often found herself replaying the last moment she saw Ella, smiling, full of hope, unaware of the darkness ahead. The bond they shared, unbreakable even in tragedy, fueled Emily's determination to keep her sister's story alive. Authorities continued dismantling Darman's network piece by piece, uncovering new victims and rescuing survivors who credited Ella's case for bringing the crimes to light. Years later, Emily stood at a memorial in Chicago, a plaque engraved with her sister's name shimmering in the afternoon sun. The words beneath read, "Her light exposed what darkness tried to hide." Though justice for Khaled Darman remained incomplete, Ella's story had become a beacon, a haunting reminder of trust betrayed and courage born from unimaginable loss.